Well, welcome back to another episode of Your Questions, My Answers, episode number 28. We are joined here by Chris Darling from Cigar Live, aka CD, and the one and only Brian Hewitt from Brian's Random Thoughts and Stogie Review. So guys, we managed to get two of us smoking the same cigar. Chris, you weren't able to get the one we're smoking, so why don't you kick things off and tell us what you're smoking, what you're drinking, and get the show on the road.
Well, Walt and I are smoking the El Cobre. It's the bundle cigar that's made by Oliva specifically for what was it, discount cigars or whatever. And I am drinking a giant mug of coffee, just well, somewhat normal coffee. Actually, this is cold filtered coffee, but I don't know if I want to get into the story behind that or not. Well, we know what you're smoking, Walt, because you already said, but what are you drinking?
Well, I've got the El Cobre I have is the Churchill. I decided to go with the longer one since we're doing these long shows anymore. But I'm pairing it up with a cup of Black Dog coffee. It's Sumatra Mandalang, and I have no idea what cold filtered coffee is. This one is comes out hot into my drip thing, and it tastes pretty good, so I think I'm on the right track. But before we go into any questions, the first and foremost, I want to say that the disclaimer is in full effect here, and that is we reserve the right to be wrong. And if there's anything that we say that just seems a little odd or is just flat out wrong, shoot us an email and we'll do our best to correct it on the following show. So with that said, we have segments 1, sponsored by Bob and Dale over at Dogwatch Cigar Radio, where you're going to find thoughtful conversation, considered opinion, and a touch of insanity. And to roll right along, we're going to give you a MP3 submission here that comes in from Jeremiah, so take a listen. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, my name's Jeremiah from the Stogie Review Fans Forum. I just had a quick question about what your thoughts are on having different types of cigars that are having to be piled on top of each other in a humidor. My humidor holds about 300 plus cigars, and in order to make the most out of my space, I'm having to pile the different cigars on top of each other, and I was wondering if that had any effect on the flavor of the smokes. So far, I really haven't noticed any difference. All the cigars taste great, but
Alright, you just heard Jeremiah, and he has a question about having a whole lot of cigars together and what the impact will be. Well, you know, from it, you didn't specifically say, but it sounds. I have to infer that these sticks don't have cellophane on them. Otherwise, maybe you're not sure about that either. So I guess I could address that. I would say if they're in cellophane, the likelihood of any issues coming through with the flavors combining or altering each other is greatly diminished. But assuming you're meaning the cellophane is off. You know, over time, yeah, the flavors, because you know, tobacco being an organic thing, and a bit of a sponge at that, it really absorbs the elements of the environment around it, which is why, you know, we keep them in Spanish cedar. You know, is one of the reasons why, to get the aromatic effect of the cedar into the cigar. So, you know, given enough time, cigars laying on top of each other, in contact with each other, will start to take on aspects of the cigars around them. It's a process that is commonly referred to as marrying, and it can be a good thing when the cigars are the same kind, but it can become a problem when you've got significantly different cigars that are laying, you know, right next to each other. You may come up with some interesting, or in some cases unpleasant, aspects coming out in certain cigars. So my thought would be, you know, yeah, it's a good thing you're not storing flavored cigars in there too, by the way. My thought would be look into getting some little Spanish cedar dividers, you know, laying them on top of the levels of cigars, or, you know, at least trying to group the same kind of cigars together. See if you can work out a scheme like that. maybe one of the other guys can tell you a little bit more about that or what their ideas are. I'm not sure where you could come up with a bunch of Spanish cedar other than, you know, picking it up off of cigars and out of cigar boxes or whatever. But yeah, what do you think, Walt?
Well, there's right off the top of my head, the first source for Spanish cedar that I can think of is Rockler. They're a woodworking supply warehouse. I'm not quite sure where they're out of, but they have hobby selections of Spanish cedar. You know, you can. I think you can actually tell them pre-cut sizes. They'll cut them for you and send them to you, or you can just buy rough size blanks. You know, they'll be finished. They'll be 4S. So they'll be planed. So they'll be uniform top and bottom with 2 smooth edges. So you know, it'll essentially be a finished board. You just have to cut it down to size. Another route you could go is you would have to most likely contact Mark Neff. He's got these Spanish cedar trays, but the thing is he sells out of them incredibly fast. So if you want to get a hold of him, shoot Mark an email, tell him, you know, to reserve you a couple when they come in. This way you can order them and get them that way. So the dividers will let you keep, you know, say Maduros in one group, you know. Cameroons in another, Corojos in another, you know, and keep them separated that way. If you have all your cigars in cellophane, I don't think it'd be an issue at all. Or if you have a naked cigar pressed up against a cigar with cellophane in it, or cellophane on it, I don't think you'll have a problem there. And again, this is a long-term thing. So if you just got 2 cigars laying next to one another for a month, maybe 2 months, it's probably not going to be an issue, and I doubt you'll really taste any difference. Now, if you had them stored next to one another, touching for say 2 years, you're definitely going to begin to notice some similarities between the two. And I just talked to a guy at a cigar shop just last week. He was talking about his melting pot. What he took all of his cigars that he had just picked up, you know, singles here and there, and he's just got like a plethora of just miscellaneous stuff, and he stuffed them all inside of his humidor. He, you know, got the hydration unit in there, closed the lid, and I think he said he sat a big heavy book on top of it to make sure the seal was, you know, completely shut. And he's just kind of letting them brew, so to speak. He's just going to wait and start popping them out and see what happens. Again, this is a situation where he's got lots of cigars. He really doesn't mind if they start marrying flavors together. So he's just kind of interested to see where they go. You know, he's got a separate humidor that he keeps, you know, everything separated in boxes and whatnot. But it might be a neat thing to just try if you want to see what happens as far as marrying goes. Just get yourself one of those little Cigars International humidors, as they give away free most times with purchase, and just load it up with, you know, 15 cigars, shut the lid, and see what happens. And you'll get first-hand knowledge on what exactly happens with marrying. But really, that's all I got for you. Chris, what do you think?
And of course, if you do go over to Cigarmony, make sure you use our coupon code over there, which is what is that? SR 2008 gives you 5% off. So that's just another reason to go over there.
There you go. One more reason to shop at Cigarmony. Besides that, Mark's a great guy, and you'll be blown away with customer support that he provides. But in any case, we have question 2, which comes in through the contact form through James. And James says, "Hi, I just got a box of Fuente Hemingway Classicos. The box came with one of those humidipacks in it, a 70% one, with a nice custom graphic on it. Anyway, I'm wondering if I should go ahead and take the cello off them and place them in my humidor, or just keep them in the box with the humidipack. The pack seems to still be fresh." So, Chris, why don't you kick us off and give us your thoughts on the humidipack and, you know, in a wooden cigar box.
Well, I gotta agree with you. It's great for short term, but if you have the option, go ahead and, you know, take those out, put those in your humidor, or put them in a Tupperware, something tight sealing. And for a little while, you can get away with using that humidipack. But it's very much a temporary solution. So and of course the cellophane. I don't know if we want to get into a long discussion of that, but my personal preference is just to leave it on. However they package it is however I leave it, and the cellophane, you know, will help protect me from damaging the wrappers with my very clumsy fingers. What do you think, Walt? Anything to add?
No, really nothing to add. I think they're great for short-term storage. Maybe if you want to, keep the cigars in that cigar box with that humidipack for a couple of days while you're maybe traveling or something, I don't think you'll have any problems there. The humidipacks, though, are kind of strange. I think they're made up of some sort of salt solution. And not long ago, well, yeah, it's been quite a while now, I bought a box of Chateau Fuente, I don't even remember what they were, Naturals, I think. And these particular cigars came packaged with that same humidipack. And what I did was I put the whole box in my humidor, or in my cooler. I pulled the humidipack out of the box because I didn't want it resting directly on top of the cigars, because it is a two-way humidification device. And essentially you'd be putting humidity dead on top of the cigars. They are in cellophane, so I don't think there would have been a whole lot of transfer, but I pulled it out anyway. And this humidipack was just kind of sitting in the bottom of my humidor for a couple of months, and I just happened to reach in there one day and grab it, and it was rock hard. So, there is a shelf life on them, so they're not a permanent solution, they are temporary. And I was actually at the cigar shop the other day, and I saw these humidipouches, which I'd never seen before, and I think they're made by the same company that makes the humidipacks. And they just look like shopping bags that seal up, and apparently they have some kind of solution in them. Maybe inside of 2 plies or something in the bag, and they're supposed to keep your cigars fresh for so long. You could even buy one of those things, toss the box inside the bag, and keep it that way for a little while, or just as Chris has mentioned, just throw them right in the Tupperware and be on your way.
I actually at one point had one of those bags, and what they told me at the place I bought it at is those bags seal up and they're good for about 3 months, which I was kind of impressed, and I used it for probably a couple of months. I'm not really certain how well it did, because I don't know how much of the stuff that was in there I smoked, but yeah, those are supposed to be a little longer term. It's interesting what you say about the humidipack. I didn't realize that it was kind of a temporary thing. I kind of assumed that if you threw it in your humidor, you could pull it out at some later point in time and it would be ready to go. But I guess that's not the case.
Well, you know what it could have been? That bag, or that humidipack, is in a box with 65% beads. So essentially, I guess they could have been wicking the moisture out of that humidipack and essentially just drying it up. Because there are far more beads in that cooler than there are, that one little humidipack. So, maybe that's what it was. Maybe if you just keep them at the right humidity, they'll continue to work for long periods of time. But when you're in a situation like that where you don't even think about it, and you've got this excess humidity unit, or this excess humidity providing thing in the box, the beads are going to try to correct it, and they will essentially dry it out. So James, I hope that that helps you out here, and that brings us to question 3. Brian, why don't you take us away on this one?
Alright, question number 3 comes from MJ via the contact form. He says, "Hey, Stogie Review, I was wondering if you could use the wooden box my Stogies come in as a temporary humidor. I'm talking about the tighter sealed boxes with a humidification stick or water pillow added in. Could this be a viable humidor for those of us who don't have the room, or should we just go the old Tupperware route? Thanks, MJ." Well, what do you think, CJ? Should he use that old box, or should he go get some Tupperware?
Well, thanks, Brett. Well, again, I think most of the boxes that are coming out now for some of the higher end smokes have a decent seal, but it's really, if you take a look at them and you compare them to a quality humidor, you're going to look and you're going to see that there's they're still pretty loose, and the humidification, whether it be a water pillow, humidipack, etc., it's going to be a good temporary type of a solution. What I would do, and again, I guess I'll kind of repeat a little bit of what I said before, is if you have the opportunity, take a look at some of the boards, take a look at Cigar Live, some of the guys that really tend to store cigars in boxes for a long period of time have, larger places to put them in, and it keeps the cigars safe to keep them in the box. But what I would do, if it were me, is if you've got a box of cigars, sure, you can use it temporary as storage to keep your cigars away from getting banged around, etc. But I would put those boxes inside of another box that is humidification and temperature controlled as much as possible. I think in the long run, it's just going to be a little bit easier for you to manage humidification and temperature. I think, if you try to put in a hygrometer in one of those boxes that they make just for, shipping and displaying cigars, there's really not oftentimes enough room to put a hygrometer in there, and you end up crushing the cigars if you do, and it's not really meant to do that. So my opinion is, find a Tupperware, find a Coleman, what do you call it, a cooler door, and put them in there, and you can maintain your humidity a bit better and still keep your cigars in the box and keep them safe from getting banged around, etc. Walt?
Yeah, sounds good. I like the cooler idea. I have a few, and I've been very happy with them, especially if you add some of that foam weather stripping that you use around doors. You put it in the jamb, or actually you put it against the doorstop. You close your exterior door or whatever it may be, and it's kind of squishes the foam and creates a seal. I put that right on top of the cooler. It does a great job of sealing it, and that would be my main concern. Capturing that seal. A lot of these wooden boxes, just as Chris had mentioned, they tend to have a loose seal. They're not really designed to hold humidity. They're designed to hold the cigars and be wrapped in plastic wrap or whatever. And and really, a lot of guys take that box and they put it inside of another humidor or put it inside of a cooler or whatnot, and that's what keeps the cigars humidified. Coincidentally, I have an old Cohiba box that I got some time back when I made my cooler. I had mentioned on Club Stogie that I needed boxes, and my local shop wanted like $5 a box for them, and I just thought that was outrageous. So I put the word out on Club Stogie, and sure enough, I got a box of like 8 or 9 cigar boxes, all nice wood boxes. And this one Cohiba box, it had been around a little while. It was a nice wood box, and it had a gold clasp on it. And sure enough, when you closed the lid, the clasp held the box shut, but it was warped and pulled up away at the corners, and it was an obvious leak. And I think unless you've got maybe a clasp on each side to really sandwich that thing shut, I just think that you're going to get a little bit of warping, a little bit of twisting over time, and the humidity is just going to leak out of the box. So I think you'd be better off taking the safer route and putting that box inside of another box, essentially, whether it be a Tupperware container or a cooler. But that is my take on it.
Well, I think now would be a great time to dig out that classic episode of Walt MacGyver White and mention the flashlight in the box in the dark room. If you're really thinking you've got a tight seal on this box and you want to keep your smokes in it, I would recommend putting a flashlight in it, take it into a dark closet, turn it on, and close it up, and see if you see any leaks. And then you'll know really quickly how good of a seal you actually have. And my guess is you'll probably see some leaks unless you're really lucky. And over time these things will warp or distort or whatever. It's just they're meant as kind of a somewhat temporary solution to a problem. We've got cigars, we want to hold them, we want to ship them, we put them in here. It's not, they're not typically designed to last forever and ever. So. Yeah, I would go with what the guys have been saying. You put them in a Tupperware or either any of those approaches. I mean, I just buy new humidors. I get little cheap ones or whatever when I grow out of my space. So I'm maybe not as resourceful as these other guys are. So, but you got anything else you want to add there, Chris, to this?
You know, I to be honest with you, I actually tried doing that when I first started smoking cigars. I had a couple of boxes, and I thought I was going to be, real smart, and I tried it out, and it was just brutal. There's nothing I could do to keep the humidity constant, and it just was way too much work. And so I said, okay, I got to get a humidor now. And as soon as I got the humidor, and as soon as I put the cigars in there, everything, my life was easy. So I would say, from my experience, it's probably not something you'd want to deal with over a long period of time, at least.
Well, MJ, I hope that that answers your question. It was very similar to our previous question from James, which is kind of why I grouped them together like that. So hopefully you caught the question number 2. Yours just blended right in, and now you got a wealth of knowledge. But in any case, before we do an update on our cigars, hey Brian, you've heard of this new cigarplaces.com, haven't you?
Yeah, yes, I have actually. I put a post up on my my Brian's Random Thoughts blog for it. Yeah, basically it's a new site out there that's it's a mashup of Google Maps and, well, cigar places, cigar brick and mortar shops. It's pretty much a place where you can go in and search on a city and see what cigar shops are in the area. And the cigar shops are added by people who use the site, which makes it cool, so you know that you're not just getting something that Google or some robot or somebody who doesn't even smoke cigars added to the site. I've been pretty impressed with it. Have you checked it out yet, Walt?
Yeah, coincidentally, I got an email. I'm pretty sure his name was Chris. I apologize if it's not. But I got an email from Chris, and he was telling me about his new site, and proposed it as, it might be, a blog post for you. So I thought, yeah, it's great. We'll definitely do something. And I told him, it didn't quite fit in the schedule right now. We'll get it up this week. Probably Sunday. If not, maybe we can do something Saturday. And thinking that, it'll be fine to do it a little bit later in the week. He mentioned that it was only 2 days old, and then sure enough, everyone's posting all about it. So you're gonna get some regurgitated information at the end of the week where we talk about. Actually, you probably have already seen it because by the time this goes up, that post will have been made. But in any case, I checked it out and I added 2 cigar shops to it, both of which are very close to my house, and it's been great so far. I mean, there's not a whole lot of information for Pennsylvania right now, but I think you give it a month or 2 months, you're going to see a whole lot of cigar shops pop up because it's very easy to use. It's very convenient too. I mean, it's got an easy name to remember. Just punch it in, type in your zip code, and there you go. If you're traveling, that works even better. I think it's a great resource, and I'm glad that he managed to make it. And now we've got another good resource for cigar-friendly places because as everyone knows, we're running out of them. So this is a great way to find local shops, local cigar-friendly establishments, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops. Chris, have you checked it out at all, or got any opinions on this new cigarplaces.com website?
Well, actually, it's the first time I've really heard of it, which is cool. I've always kind of messed around on Cigar Live and a couple other boards where people there's a section, etc., for putting in local B&Ms, but this seems like it's a no-brainer type of a website, and I'm gonna go check it out right after we finish this. It sounds pretty cool.
Well, that's great news. We informed someone first. So, in any case, we're we got to the point now where it's about time to update on our cigars. My apologies if the show seems a little condensed. That kind of was the idea. Shorten it up a little bit, but we really seem to be flying along. So, now's the time to just let the banter fly for a couple of minutes. If anything pops in your head, guys, feel free. Again, I'm smoking the El Cobre Churchill. I've probably about 1.5 inches into it, and just like every other El Cobre I've had, it's just it's a mouthful of flavor. It's a very powerful cigar, smooth. It's not very pretty to look at. This isn't one that you're going to show to your friends and say, look at the construction on this. It's beautiful. It is kind of ugly, but it smokes and tastes great. What about you, Brian? How's your El Cobre treating you?
Well, I would say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, because I think this has a pretty ash. It's got a prettier looking ash than a lot of the cigars I've smoked recently. It did unfortunately, and I saw this in the one I had just a while before this. There was a bit of a split at the foot, so it kind of flowered a little bit. I mean, but aside from that, and having to knock that off before it knocked itself off, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a pretty cool looking cigar. I mean, it kind of big and dirty looking, and it's got a nice copper band on it. It's something about it says I don't know. I just got done pounding nails into railroad ties. I want to smoke. That's what it says to me. So I think it's a cool cigar. Honestly, I'm planning on going out and getting more of them when I run out, or mooching more, as the case may be. So. What about you, Chris? How's your La Flor treating you?
It's a wonderful cigar. I have to give a shout out to my buddy Mongo down at Charlie's Tobacco, who gifted this to me last week. I mean, the wrapper is just beautiful. It's an Oscuro, and it's one of the first Oscuro Limitados that I've had before, and it's tasty. It's got some power to it, but it's not like the Double Ligero. It's tasty. It has a little bit of spice to it, but not too much. I know that Cody Mongo had been telling me that he had this aging for quite a while, so I was pretty pumped when he gave it to me. And man, it's just a beautiful cigar. I love it. It's tons of flavor, tons of smoke. I noticed that I think I've been smoking it actually pretty quick, which is unusual for me. So don't know if I'm going to be at the same point that you guys are, but I'm probably 2.5, 3 inches into it right now. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a good way into mine. I had to ash it, like I said earlier, because it was getting a bit unruly there at the end. But yeah, I'm getting close to the halfway point. It's a shame I didn't have the Churchill like Walt smoking. I'm definitely gonna have to pull something else out here probably before too long and light that up. But it's going to be hard to follow this up. I mean, once you've had the paint roller of El Cobre applied to your palate, what else can you smoke? I mean, I don't know.
Brian, what size El Cobre did you have?
This was part of a bundle split, so this is I think it's just a Robusto size. I believe that's what it was. I didn't actually measure. Yeah, that sounds right, because a bunch of us over on Cigar Life were all interested in this. Partly because of you, Walt, and you're bringing it up and loving it so much. And I figured, I organized the thing, so I figured, well, we don't know if we're going to like it. I don't want to go out and get everybody these giant Churchills, and have them all turn green in the first inch and have to throw the rest away. So I thought, Robusto's a good taster size, and I've had this. I think this is the second out of the bundle I've actually gotten to. And I've really enjoyed them. So I'm wishing I would have gotten something bigger or more of them, or shared less, I guess.
It's funny. I've had, I don't know, probably between 15 and 20 of these cigars, and every single one of them was the torpedo shape. So, and I've gotten these cigars from numerous people. They knew I liked them, so when they sent me a package or we did a trade or something, they included one of these cigars, and it was always the torpedo. So here I am thinking that, well, it's only available in a torpedo, and sure enough, I check out the website, and well, there's 4 sizes altogether. So I wanted to sample the rest, and so far, I mean, the Churchill's smoking great. I like the tapered head of the torpedo, but I'm not missing it at all. I mean, this cigar is just jam-packed full of flavor, and it's certainly not a disappointment. It's a very good cigar. I don't smoke Churchills very often, just because of the time constraints that they put you in. But I've been happy with it, and I've been finding a place for Churchills as of late, especially when I go to the cigar shop. I hate going to the cigar shop and smoking 2 cigars in the time that I could have smoked the Churchill. Simply because, well, I like the shorter cigars better, and that's no reason. When I get to the cigar shop, I'm there first, so I have half hour, 45 minutes to kill, and oftentimes, those short cigars are flat in the beginning, and then they get a whole lot better. you know, if I just splurge and pick up the Churchill and just bite the bullet, I could have that flatness in the beginning, you know, a little bit, and then I'd have so much more cigar that was flavorful and full of goodness, you know. So I think maybe I'll be picking up more Churchills in the future and not sticking solely to, you know, Robustos, Rothschilds, and Coronas and whatnot.
You know, Walt, that's the exact same thing. You know, I was just talking with a couple of guys at the local store that the shop that I go to. I've noticed that, you know, if I get there first, I'm always like, I've got about 2 inches left of my cigar, and everybody else is just sort of starting. So, probably the exact same line of thinking that you're in, and I'm going with the larger cigars when I get to the shop from now on. You know, when I'm at home and I'm smoking alone, it's usually a Robusto or a Toro size, and that'll do me well for an hour, hour and a half, and then, you know, smoking for 2 hours, especially when it's cold, you know, cold outside, it's just not doable. But if you're in a nice shop and you got plenty of time to kill, I mean, that's just the way to go.
Well, Chris, just to give you a little heads up, I'm going to pose a question on you later when we have a little bit more free time. But I put a post up on the Stogie Review entitled "Things That Make You Say Huh?" or something along those lines of amazing smoke shop stories. And since you spend a fair amount of time in a smoke shop, I'm sure that you've got one. So I'm gonna, you know, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, throw you under the bus a little bit. So be prepared for it. Just think of an outrageous story you've heard at the cigar shop. You know, something that someone said that's, you know, totally out of left field. And well, I'll tell you more about it during the break. But in any case, we're gonna take a production break. We'll be back in just a sec.
Hey guys, this is BJ calling from Los Angeles, California. I'm calling in to enter for the MQYK drawing. So 3 cigars with a distinct pepper component. Top 3 would be the Dantepin Blue Label. Secondly, the Rocky Patel Sungrown. And thirdly, the Punch Red Corojo. That's pretty much it. And thank you guys for your great reviews and your videos. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.